Good afternoon. I'm Bren Cuny, Manager of Member Services with the Ohio Restaurant Association. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this free Ohio Restaurant Association Restaurant Education Series event, Pin to Win, a focus on Pinterest. This is the fifth in a series of 7 webinars on social media. This series came out of requests from participants in the Social Media Summit last year. The Ohio Restaurant Association Restaurant Education Series provides members free access to educational events that help them sustain and grow their businesses and are developed based on member feedback. Restaurant Education Series events support a key ORA initiative, the education of our members. All educational events are posted on the ORA website, ohiorestaurant.org. To find them, go to the Education and Events tab, then the Restaurant Education Series tab. This is also where this webinar recording, along with the PowerPoint slides, will be posted in the next 3 to 5 business days. Heartland Payment Systems is the lead sponsor for all Restaurant Education Series events. We thank them for their support of this valuable programming. Before we get started, I want to review a few housekeeping items and let you know how you can participate in today's webinar. At the end of the webinar, we will answer your questions. However, during the webinar, please feel free to send your questions to me. I'll show you how to do that momentarily. After the webinar ends, a survey will pop up. It will take you no longer than 3 minutes to answer. Please respond to the survey in order for us to improve our offerings. We really want to make sure that the education we're offering you find valuable. Currently, we're looking at an example of a GoToWebinar attendee interface, which is made up of 2 parts. The viewer window on the left, which allows you to see everything the presenter will share on his screen, and the control panel at the right. Within that control panel is how you can participate in today's event. So let's look at that. By clicking on the orange arrow, you can open and close your control panel. From the View menu, you can also set the control panel not to auto-hide when inactive if you prefer to keep it open. The audio pane provides audio information. By default, you have joined the webinar via mic and speakers. Click Audio Setup to select your computer speaker or headset devices. If you prefer, you can join the audio via telephone by selecting Use Telephone. And the dial-in information will be displayed, including an audio PIN, which you must enter. At the end of the presentation, we will answer your questions. Please send your questions to our moderator through the question box. Simply type in your question and hit send. Now I'd like to introduce you to your speaker, Sean Christie. Christie Creative LLC, a full-service social media marketing agency, was born out of Sean's passion for driving online buzz, combined with over 15 years of marketing experience. With the success the company was having in the food and beverage industry, he made the decision to launch a separate brand, Eat, Drink, Promote. Since its inception in 2010, hundreds of companies have turned to Sean for his expertise in crafting strategic social media messaging that builds brands and garners results. In addition, Sean is a partner in Emerging Chefs and helps startup restaurateurs get exposure. Sean has spoken to groups all over the country on the topic of driving revenue with the incredible power of social media, including ORA's own North America Pizza and Ice Cream Show, as well as the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Show for the past 2 years. Sean is also the president of a new company, Focal Point Social Media. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Bren. So I always like to start out with a quote, but this one I'm going to use one of those funny some e-cards that you probably have seen on Facebook. And this one I think is extremely appropriate for today's lesson. I'm going to introduce you to Pinterest, but first let me take a moment to say goodbye to your friends and family. And when my wife discovered Pinterest, I have to tell you that she discovered this even before I knew what it was. She introduced it to me, and when I saw what she was doing with this a couple years ago, I immediately knew that there was going to be some business application to it. And I remember when I found her building a bookshelf with some dowel rods, curtain hangers, and some fabric that she got from Joann Fabrics, and I said, "You never build anything. What's going on?" She's like, "Oh, I found this on Pinterest." And I'm like, "What's Pinterest?" She's like, "Well, it's this thing for crafts and recipes, and I found this little bookshelf I thought would be great." So she actually introduced it to me, the social media guy, and since then we found plenty of application for our clients. And essentially, she's on that every day when we're planning a party, trying to figure out how to redo a room, fashion, but it also applies to you from a restaurant or a bar perspective because you can tie those things in and get people's attention and grab interest through some of those other things. So what we're going to talk about today, always starting with statistics, dive into the profile specifically. Many of you may not even have a Pinterest profile, but if you attended last week, it's very similar in creation to Instagram. Although when we look at the statistics, it's the opposite in many ways. But from a setup, it is very simple. Then we're going to take a look at boards and pins. A few examples, and then, as always, about 10 minutes for questions and answers toward the end. Some of the statistics, 70 million users. So you have quite a few users on here, again, similar to Instagram in this way, but here's what's interesting. 80% female. So if your target audience is the female demographic, this far and away speaks to that particular crowd more than any of the other social media platforms. So this is something to pay attention to if this is your audience. It's also significant that women post 92% of all pins. So the activity, even though 20% is male, almost all of the activity on Pinterest is driven by women. The average minutes spent per visit on Pinterest is 14.2 minutes, and 18% of users have a household income of over $75,000. So we've got a large female audience with a high disposable income. If that sounds attractive to you and that is somebody that you would like to market to, this is a fantastic venue for that. 23% of those users log in every single day. The average number of pins per user is 158. 64% of our users try a Pinterest-inspired activity, very similar to the first example that I used where my wife had built that. That was a Pinterest-inspired activity. Now, every birthday party we do, every remodel in our house, we're in the process of building a new house right now, and when we were working with the architect, he actually asked us to use Pinterest for the different rooms, for the different elements that we would want to incorporate into our plan, which is pretty interesting. So this could be used in a multitude of ways, and people are really using this to drive decisions. So when I talk about parties, many of you may offer catering. This is a slam dunk in that arena. So you're helping me decide what type of cake I'm going to have, what type of decorations. You might have some of those boards, and we'll talk about that later. But oh, by the way, you also offer catering, and you've got some very interesting presentations for your food and some different things to consider that could also be tied into that. So them trying your catering menu would be a Pinterest-inspired activity. So I just wanted to throw that out there. There are 30 billion pins to date and 750 million boards created. So the moral of the story here from this slide is we've got a ton of people, the majority of them women, with a lot of money to spend from a disposable income perspective, and they pay a lot of attention. They're actually doing things that they see on this particular social platform, which I think is incredible. Now here's where it gets to become the anti-Instagram or the opposite. Red beats blue. So they did the research and took a look, took a deep dive into the colors that inspired people to take action. And last week with Instagram, we talked about blue being the predominant color. Here, it's different. Red beats blue. Red gets repinned 2 times more than blue, in fact. And this is the reds, the oranges, and the browns. Losing face, 4.25 more images without faces. They get pinned 4.25 is the percentage that they're getting repinned more than the others. So the faces that we talked about last week in Instagram, where the majority of the interactions were taking place on a picture that actually had somebody's face or groups of people, and we said, hey, let's get our staff in there, let's get our customers. It's exactly the opposite here with Pinterest. They're looking for more imagery, pictures of the food, pictures of the architecture. Those are the things that are getting shared and interacted with more. So keep that in mind. More background. Images that have the 10% plus background filled get repinned more. So you want to make sure that you've got a lot going on within these images instead of just something very small and very simple. It's not eye-catching, it doesn't grab them, and therefore it doesn't get reshared or repinned. Midwest, this was exciting. Midwest love. The Midwest prefers and shares more on Pinterest than any other region in the country, so Ohio is a huge Pinterest market. So for us, this makes a lot of sense. Ohio, women, and high disposable income, this is our place. Mobility is key. 3 times more shares happen on a mobile device than a desktop. And this was similar to what we discussed last week, where we had a vast majority of people participating on Instagram mobilely. Same thing with Pinterest. More activity on the phone. Night owls. This is different than any of our other social media platforms that we've discussed or will discuss. Pinterest activity is happening around, the peak is around 9 o'clock, it's happening much later. So whereas we were talking about hitting people in the morning and at dinner time with some of our different messaging, this one's a little bit different. People are really spiking the activity in the evening around 9, right before bed. And you can see if you look at a graph of activity, it slowly ramps up throughout the day and then hits that peak around 9 o'clock at night. So just know that that's when this particular group is participating. Mother knows best. Moms share twice as much as the average user on Pinterest. So let's say we're a family restaurant, this is an ideal place. And if you think about the different activities that mothers might be getting involved with, from doing a child's room to cooking a dinner for the family to a birthday party, moms are really going to this platform and spending a lot of time. So if that's a target market that you're looking to reach, being a great resource for a family, for a mother specifically, will benefit you as you try to think of, how do I want to leverage this? How do I get results with it? How do I get in front of people? How do I just speak to this audience? Think about this. This family deal may be good for you. This is the page that has the most followers. It revolves around food. I decided to share this with you just so you could see the impact. And people want to get recipes. They want to talk about food. They want to share things about food. So if you take a look, you've got over 6 million, almost 7 million followers on this particular page. And I think that's significant for us as marketing restaurants. Okay. This is the most pinned pin. Garlic cheesy bread. You can see this has been pinned to boards 105 times. Again, it's significant because people enjoy food on Pinterest. So the most followed board and the most pinned pin both revolve around food, and that's significant for our restaurants. So, okay, it looks like this is something that we want to explore. We have some interest. These demographics make sense, and we've got some time to spend. Let's take a look at Pinterest. How do we get started? And I do say, and I was talking to Brent about this earlier, is that this is, to me, and in my opinion, an icing on the cake platform. I think that some of the ones that we talked about, Facebook in particular, or Yelp, those can be impactful right out of the gate. These are very nice profiles and speak directly to a vertical and a target that we're looking at in that female demographic, but it's a little bit harder to track because you only have a certain there are probably 3 metrics that you can really track, and we'll talk about analytics. I think there's a lot of value here, and I think your competition is not participating, so it's a great way to stand out and get in front of people that you're probably not seeing in some of those other areas. But I do think it's an additional one that you run around other social media platforms in congruence with. But to create a Pinterest account, you just go to pinterest.com/business/create. I've got the URL up there. It'll take you to this screen, and you're just filling out a couple different fields. It's pretty simple. Your name, your business type, email address, password to get you started, Sean@ilovetoeat.com. Your business name, and then you get to pick a username. So just like facebook.com/ABC Restaurant, same thing here. I always recommend that you try to keep your URLs the same. So your Twitter handle is the same as your Pinterest page is the same as your Facebook. So if it's facebook.com/ABC Restaurant, it's pinterest.com/ABC Restaurant. And you want that same handle if you can do that with Twitter as well. And you have a few characters that you can put in there, 160 characters for your bio and your website. That's it. It's that easy to get started. One thing, and you may need to get some help from your web designer for this, is you may notice if you're on Pinterest, and if you're just getting involved, I'll share this verification process with you, you'll see a check mark, and that's just saying that it's verified that it's your website, the business's website specifically, that is listed and not sending you to somewhere that you don't know. So you'll click Verify Website, and then you'll put your web address in there, and you answer a couple pieces of information. This literally takes 10 seconds, but it's going to give you, once you put that in there, it's going to give you a little piece of code. There's an HTML file that you're going to plug into your website, and many of you, including myself, I have somebody help me with this piece as well, is you got to put that in your website so that it knows that it is in fact your website. So once you do this particular process, there's a 3-step process. You go in there, you put your information in, it gives you that piece of code, and whoever's working on your website, you'll just have that, embed that, or if you're doing that yourself, you'll embed that tag, and then it will verify it, and then you'll have the check mark. But in addition to just having that verified, this will give you a little bit deeper dive into your analytics. So it's going to show you the trends. You can't get your metrics without doing this. So this is important if you really want to track the back end outside of the things that you can just see on the front, and that would be your followers and how many pins you have and how many boards, etc. This will help share some of the information about what's going on behind the scenes, and you can get a kind of a running total and a history that you can compare, whereas you won't be able to do that without doing that piece. So that's something that people sometimes don't know is there for you, and there might be an extra step in you having to involve somebody from your marketing team just to get that in there. But if you have that capability and somebody that can give you a hand with that, I recommend doing it, because these analytics will tell you if it's worth spending your time, because I know we're all stretched for our time and we need to make decisions on where to spend it. And I think some of these analytics on the back end will help you determine if that's a good fit. Like anything else, you have to give it some time and get it up and running, and it's got to be part of your whole strategy. But this is a way for you to track progress and see some success. We all like the graphs going up and showing green, so this is a way that you're going to be able to track. This is what the top of a profile looks like, and I just picked 2 out of here, Maggiano's and A&W. You get 160 characters to put a quick little bio in there, and then the website, as you can see. Now, Maggiano's decided to not put a corporate location on there. A&W, however, did, so you have the ability to put your location, and if you're multi-unit, you don't have to. But you can also link Facebook and Twitter to this. So you want to make sure that you plug those things in there so people can quick click through to your website or click to one of your other social platforms, and vice versa, be sharing this particular social outlet with folks from your other social media. So now we've got an idea of who's on Pinterest. We know what the profile looks like, what it takes to set up. We know a little bit on how we're going to track some of that, and this is very high level. So what do we put on the boards? And I've had restaurant owners tell me, well, we took a picture of all of our food, we've got it up there, and we've got some of our interesting things at our location put up there, but that's really it. We've got our menu, we've got food, and we've got our building, and that's really it. There's nothing else that we can add. So clearly your food is a big deal. Having high quality pictures, that's going to get people hungry. It's going to get them to want to come in, to be thinking about their favorite dish. I see boards all the time that say my favorite restaurants or my favorite foods. You want to be on that board because that's mind share. And that's marketing that you've just spent a very small amount of time on to then be not only put onto their boards that they're seeing often, but it's marketing to their friends as well. So you want them not only to see what you have on your page, but you want them to put it as one of their favorites, and you want to encourage people to do that. So having your food on there is one of your key ways that you make money is important. It makes a lot of sense. Your venue. Some of you may have a hall rental available. People are planning parties. We talked about those things. So have anything that's unique about your venue, from a chair to a plate to your glasses, to just the outside, to your sign, to your menu, anything that's very specific. Don't just take one picture of the interior and say, all right, we're done. We've got it all wrapped up. Try to take as many pictures and to be as visual for people to see everything that you have to offer, because that's going to be easy content that you have readily available, and you can take one picture of your venue and turn it into 15 or 20 pictures just by taking those few extra pictures on those specific things. Party ideas. This is huge in my opinion. If you have a carry-out situation or you have a catering division, this is something that you want to consider, or you're doing pizzas, subs, whatever it might be, you want to make sure that that is thrown into this board of party ideas. So yes, you've got your food in there, but you're also doing centerpieces or different themes that you can have, party invitations. Those could even be all different boards. You know, kids parties, adult parties, New Year's Eve. So you're thinking about in what ways do our customers interact with us? When do they buy from us? What's important to them? So we're always keeping in mind our target audience. What do they talk about? What do they like? And then we're putting that on our boards, even if it has nothing to do with our restaurant or our food, because what will happen is, as a result of them finding you and coming to your Pinterest page for other reasons, they will automatically get the rest of it. So we're going to have people that are automatically going to come, that already know us, that like us. They're going to check out our stuff. They're going to share hey, this is my favorite restaurant, or this is my favorite pizza, or my favorite salad, whatever it is. They're going to automatically put that in there. But we've got an opportunity to reach people that have never heard of us, and again, for a very low time commitment, a very low cost commitment. So examples of different parties that they can have is a huge one. And like I said, we have going on 5 kids now, and 100% of every single party we do, including catering, we use Pinterest for. We plan every single party that we do for our family from Pinterest, because we don't have all the greatest ideas. In fact, we ran out of them a long time ago, the good ones that we did have. So going to find people that are doing this either professionally, like you for catering, or people that are party planners putting great ideas out there, because we will click through and we will buy things that we think are awesome for our party. And if your catering is in there, you may get an at-bat with us to cater it as well. So that is a huge one. This is where I think you spend a lot of time, and I'd come up with a million different party ideas, and as you stretch out those pins over time, that's where I would be spending it. Then you have crafts. So when we worked with the Napix, the pizza and ice cream folks, we looked at different crafts that were being done, and ice cream was very easy because there are all kinds of crafts and birthday parties that revolved around ice cream. There were light fixtures that were ice cream cones. You could just have a lot of fun with this craft piece, so that may be something that you want to take a look at. Then there's fashion. Does your target demographic enjoy a certain purse or bag, certain clothing? If it's sports related, is it baseball, football, is it all of them? And then you have a board that is specific, and a board is a grouping of pictures. So it's basically a box. I'm going to show you what those look like shortly, but you could have football, baseball, wrestling, whatever is big in your city or whatever you're passionate about. Sometimes I know like a Quaker Steak has the racing and the motorcycles. Those could be their own pins. And then regional interest, and I think this is an often overlooked one as well. People are they're very supportive of their local communities. So just different things around town. We talked about this with Instagram. You could be taking Instagram pictures and really turning those into pins as well. Any picture that's on your website, turn it into a pin. You can share anything visually the same way through Pinterest. So create boards around that. So what do boards look like? We've got one here for weddings. So this is what it looks like when you go to the main page, and this is from Robert J. Events and Catering. You've got weddings here. You got some pictures underneath, and you just get the small thumbnails. Then you click through, and then they become bigger. And guess what? You get an opportunity to put little descriptions underneath these pins. So when people search Pinterest for things, you want to make sure that you're describing the pictures in a way that will help people find you in search. Very much like search engine optimization. You're thinking about words people will search on Google. The same thing happens here on Pinterest. So make sure that you're putting keywords into the descriptions of the pictures when you upload them. Just to share a couple more, wedding ideas. Maybe this is Tangier in Akron. They do a lot of weddings, so they do things specific for the bridesmaids. Bridesmaids have 31 pins. They've got one for the groom. They've got one for the bride. Hair ideas, party ideas. You can see the different cakes there. So those are some examples of good boards that don't specifically speak. For instance, hair ideas has nothing to do with this particular restaurant. However, it has everything to do with somebody that would want to rent the hall from them. Maybe you're a Coke, maybe you're a Coke venue, maybe you're a Pepsi venue. Happiness is Here is one. So this is something that's very simple. People are collectors of things Coke. People will follow this board and pin that board. It has nothing directly to do with you per se, but it's a nice way just to add that flavor to your board. Say cheese, food that has smiley faces, that's its own board. Here we have California Pizza Kitchen, and these are good examples of professional photos that are done specific to their menu. So that's another thing that you want to consider. If hamburgers is your thing, there are all kinds of crazy pictures out on Pinterest that are just fun. So the burger bed, who doesn't want that? It's fantastic. You have pickle pillows. I just thought that was funny, a life-size burger. Halloween food, you got the cheese cut out to look like jack-o'-lanterns. And then a pumpkin decorating contest. Somebody actually made a hamburger, and I thought that this was a fantastic representation. Again, these three boards have nothing to do with a specific restaurant, but could be leveraged very, very well for a restaurant. So I just wanted to share with you a couple ideas to where you're thinking outside of your four walls and how can you make this go further, or after the first couple months, how can you continue to come up with ideas. Just search keywords, look for things like this, and then reshare them, or take some of the ideas and maybe make your own hamburgers that look like this during Halloween. It will also help you with coming up with creative things to do within the restaurant as well. Wanted to let you know that promoted pins, all social media is trying to do at this point is monetize. How can we make money as the social media platform? So you will have promoted pins that are very similar to like the other paid advertisings that we have been talking about. So I want to let you know that those were coming. As always, you can't just put it out there. It's not a field of dreams. So you want to make sure that it's part of a multifaceted plan. And those of you that have been with us for a while know that I talk about this every single time. Multifaceted plan. You still need to do your other marketing to push people to these, excuse me, because they don't always just find you. So letting them know within the restaurant, in your email signature, email campaigns, and having the icons on your website. A lot of times we create these new platforms, we get them out there and we forget to put them on our website. So make sure that as you add social media, it's going right up on your website so people visiting can go ahead and participate with you there and know that you're there. So 3 keys: build a great page, give them a reason to come back, be interesting. When I say that, I mean be interesting. to your target market. Not only be interesting, but keep it fresh. So keep the content coming. Maybe you can only do 5 pins a week, but you're continually doing it over time so that every time somebody comes back, they're seeing something new and it's not gathering dust. And promote your page to that multifaceted approach that we just talked about. With that, I will turn it back over to Bren for any questions that you may have.
Great. Thanks for that, Sean. A couple questions here. You had just mentioned 5 pins a week. So how often should someone be pinning?
I think it depends on how much you enjoy it. You may get in here like that first slide and start pinning things. In an hour passes and you've pinned 100 things. So I think a good place to start would be, you know what, I'm going to do 5 pins a day, or maybe I'm going to do one board every other week and do 10 pins all at the same time. You will find that the activity, it's fairly intoxicating. Once you start, like when I was just looking at different things for hamburgers, I mean, I probably spent 20 minutes just laughing at some of the silly things that were on there, and it will suck you in. So maybe just dedicate some time and say, I'm gonna go with 5 pins. You'll probably end up doing much, much more than that, and then writing down ideas. Okay, next week I want to look at this. Things that will come up in your searches that will spark other ideas. So keep a journal on what to do. But I think if you could just have weekly activity and commit yourself to maybe 5 pins or 10 pins. I think that you'll be successful, and I think that's more than the majority of companies, small businesses do anyway. So you're ahead of the game if you do that.
Great. This is a question I just thought of. Do you see, when you were on there, because I am not on Pinterest, do you see a lot of restaurants on there, or is it something that's growing?
I see a good amount of restaurants. I wouldn't say a lot. I would tell you that I think this is probably the 3rd or 4th place that they're going. Typically I see Facebook #1, Yelp's right up there with them, and then Twitter is in there, and then this one would probably be next. And I think it depends on your demographic. So, if you're a heavily male-dominated sports bar, probably, and you don't get a lot of women in your restaurant, you probably don't spend a lot of time here.
Okay. And then also, are there any mistakes that you see restaurants making?
Yeah, I would say that here's a couple of common mistakes. One, just putting stuff up only about you, because then it just becomes boring. 2, they're not using the descriptions as well. So I'm putting a picture of something up there, it's a avocado burger and it's got all these different ingredients on it. You lose an opportunity to be found when you don't put specific keywords in there. So even if you just did hamburger, you're at least getting an at there. But go a little bit deeper and talk about the type that it is. So I think that's really important. And then tracking. Many of them do not track how it's going. They'll put it out there and then not verify the website and not track the results and see that they're moving up in terms of repins and followers and things like that.
Great. Well, those are all the questions that we have. So I will thank you, Sean, for your wisdom and your time and your expertise. We really appreciate that.
No problem. My pleasure.
Okay. Well, everyone, you can see what we have going on in the next couple of weeks. There's 2 remaining sessions of the social media series, so we have Sean for 2 more weeks, so definitely plan on participating in those sessions. Just like to point out a few things. The Ohio Department of Taxation webinar for quick service restaurants is on July 23rd. This is not a restaurant education series event, but it is an opportunity for members who do quick serve or also do a lot of to-go orders. This came out of discussions from one of our ORA members who had issues with to-go orders in their sales tax audits. And our Government Affairs Director, Richard Mason, worked directly with the Ohio Department of Taxation on behalf of this member. And this webinar came out of those interactions. So you definitely want to participate in that if you do any to-go orders or you have any sales tax issues or questions that you might have. Then we also have an event, a franchising webinar on August 6th. And this is going to take you through the steps that you need to take to expand your business, and it is definitely not to be missed if you have any plans to franchise in the future. So we hope you can join us on all of these webinars, and you can register for these events by going to our website, ohiorestaurant.org, and navigating to the Restaurant Education Series page. If you're not able to participate, please know that we are recording all webinars. Please take a moment to fill out the survey link that's going to pop up right when I end this webinar. And as always, we need your feedback to create effective programming. All of our programs come out of requests from our members. So, actually, I just saw we have one question. Why don't I go ahead and ask that? We have a question, Sean. Would using pictures of landmarks be useful?
Yeah, I think so, because those are things that are commonly looked for. So I think absolutely that's a great way, and that would tie back into that regional relevance. Landmarks is probably one of the bigger things that gets pinned. So if your city, town, or area is known for a few key points of interest, even people from out of town may be looking for those and find you in that manner.
Great. Any other questions? I definitely want people to make sure that they are able to ask all their questions. Well, and in the slides are Sean's contact information, and if you do have any additional questions, Sean's happy to answer any of those questions. You can also send them to me, and I can forward them on to Sean. So I want to thank you for your participation today and for your continued investment in the Ohio Restaurant Association through your membership. Have a great day, and this ends today's webinar.